people here that would like to speak to that, to the issue on the change of the proposed name change of Big Island located in Pelican Lake? So those that wish to speak to it, please come forward. Welcome, Rose.
Thank you. Do I need to state my name or anything? Okay, my name is Rose Berens, and I would like to make a correction. I am not the historian for Bois Forte. I am the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, otherwise known as the TIPO. One thing that I would like to make you aware of, if you are not already, from what I have read in the paper and on some of the letters that we've received, the idea of adding Strand's name to the name of the island was to commemorate the original owners of the island on Pelican Lake known as Big Island. Strands are not the original owners of Big Island. Al Strand is the grandson of the man who married into the Bailey family. Baileys owned the island before that. The original owners of Big Island on Pelican Lake is the Bois Forte Band. And I just wanted to make you aware of that. That island was on land that was ceded to the government. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. We did send a letter from my office because one of the suggestions for a name for the island was Strand Gitchiminis. Traditionally, we never mix the English language with the Anishinaabe language. So when you're making your decision, if you do decide to change the name of the island, the Bois Forte Band would traditionally request that you do not mix English and Anishinaabe for the naming of that island. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Is there any others that wish to speak on the at this hearing? And if you haven't signed in,
yes,
please sign in.
I've signed in already. My name is Dan Donovan. I believe the commissioners have a copy of a letter. I'm here representing my siblings, and I'd just like to read from that letter quickly. We are writing in order to provide you with our concerns and perspectives regarding the renaming of the Big Island on Pelican Lake. Our family has been on Pelican Lake for about 100 years. Our grandparents, Richard and Bernice Bailey, deceased in the 1960s and 70s, bequeathed the various Bailey Islands on Pelican Lake, including the Big Island, to their two daughters, Rebecca Strand and Bernice Donovan, my mother, in the late 60s and early 70s. These islands, over 30 different islands of all sizes, had been acquired over a period starting in the early 20th century by our ancestors. In 1978, these islands were further divided between the estates of Mrs. Strand and Mrs. Donovan, both now deceased. And they subsequently bequeathed them to their family members in the late 70s and early 80s. The Strand and Donovan families all remain quite active and present on Pelican Lake. On the Donovan side, we now have 6 family cabins on various islands and properties on Pelican Lake. In addition, and more importantly, our family has made a major donation of 4 of the former Bailey Islands to the state in support of the Big Island SNA. And following the donation, and in accordance with discussions with the DNR, along with the Big Island that was sold by the Strands to the state for the purpose of conservation, those 4 islands have been added to the Big Island SNA to increase its scope. We are a bit perplexed by the need to rename the island. We understand that someone in the legislature thought it was appropriate to avoid confusion because of other island properties in Minnesota likewise named Big Island, but we really don't think anyone will get lost searching for the Big Island. And there are many Pelican Lakes in Minnesota, but we have not heard any need to rename each to distinguish them to avoid confusion. However, if someone has determined That a name change is necessary, we would like to offer the following additional perspectives. Due to the long-standing Bailey legacy on Pelican Lake, we would urge that if any name change is considered, we would strongly advocate naming the island Big Bailey Island. That is, in fact, the name that our families have always called the island, even today, and it is our impression that many, if not most of our neighbors and friends on Pelican Lake use the same Big Bailey Island name as well. The island is referred to in numerous sources as Big Bailey Island. The most popular maps used by residents, business interests, sportsmen, and visitors, published by Lake Maps and W.A. Fisher, have identified the island as Big Bailey Island. The maps are used for many purposes and are the only published listing of the island available to the immediate public in the area. These maps are used for recreational purposes generally, but also provide an important communication to the population for the public service, emergency response, wildlife management, and utilities. The name Big Bailey Island is an important and central reference point for any person or entity operating on the lake. If it is determined that it is not appropriate to name the island after Bailey because it reflects an owner name, and there is a reluctance to use the name, notwithstanding its historical attachment, we assume the same would be true of Strand. And therefore, we would suggest consideration of a place locator which would be appropriate, such as Pelican Big Island. We are concerned about any change in the island name potentially resulting in a change in the name of the Big Island Scientific and Nature Area. Our family has made a significant donation without consideration of the 4 properties, and a name change that might cause confusion to associate the islands with some other persons might devalue the nature of the gift to the state. We have not sought public recognition for these efforts, no desire on our part to change the name of the islands to include the Donovan name in the SNA, but a change in the name of the Big Island that results in a change in the SNA would be a concern. We treasure every day spent on Pelican Lake. It has an emotional and historical attachment for all of us that cannot be replaced. Through the conservation of the Big Bailey Island and additional conservation of some of the surrounding islands that we have been able to be involved in, we believe that generations will be able to forever enjoy the unique natural qualities of Pelican Lake. As we've already said, we thank the Strand family for their conservation efforts. We urge you to consider the long-term historical legacy that Big Bailey Island name represents on the lake for the community at large, and hope you will see fit to honor it in perpetuity. And these are my siblings that are listed below. I guess one other comment I would make, I think what we're suggesting here is basically that the island would revert to the name it had before it was acquired by the state, Big Bailey Island. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan, and I appreciate that input. With that, I did tell our representative that I would ask the board to continue the hearing until the middle of May, whatever, and I don't have my calendar in front of me, but at a meeting in May, and I would ask if there's a motion to. Oh, excuse me, I'm new at this again here, so are there any other speakers that wish to speak on the, sure, come on forward. And state your name and sign in, please.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, my name is Pete Belay. I'm with the Department of Natural Resources, and I'm the Geographic Names Liaison with the state. Just a quick couple of information tidbits to pass along. If, regardless of what name is considered, ultimately, the federal board would discourage the use of compound names, trying to attach 2 separate names, make it one. So something to keep in mind in the future. And just to clarify some previous information, the Strands did sell the island to the state at near market value back in 1995. And the Donovans did donate the land of the 4 smaller islands to the state at a later date, about 2001. So there will probably be more to say, but I can wait till the next public hearing if there's more.
Thank you, Pete. Any questions? Any other speakers that wish to speak at the public hearing? Any other speakers? Are there any other speakers? Commissioner Crone.
Mr. Chair, I do have one question of the Bois Forte representative, if I could. That question, what are your feelings about if the name was left the same as it is right now? Because,
If it would just still be called Big Island? If it was
yes,
just left? That would be all right, I guess. See, we're not asking you to change the name.
Yes, that's what
we're
I-
doing is, you asked us for our input, and if we had an alternative name. And what I did was, I went to a number of elders who were born and raised on Pelican Lake, and a number of older people, older elders from Nut Lake, and asked them what we used to call it, or what it was called by our people. And they all gave me the same name, Gitchimenes, and that was why I had suggested that. If you leave the name just the same and call it Big Island, I personally don't see any problem with that.
very good.
It's been known, like Mr. Donovan said, it's always been called by the people from Orr and the surrounding area, Big Island. The only thing is that we called it Big Island, but in our own language.
Very good, that clarifies that. I know that you didn't initiate the name, but I was just wondering that once this process got going, if you were pushing it or would be satisfied with the same name, and you've answered that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Commissioner Crone. Any other questions? Commissioner Nelson, Commissioner Rocker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This might be a silly question, but
He's a handsome.
is there anything to prevent the renaming of all 5 islands to accommodate everybody that wants to have their name attached to an island? It's a hypothetical.
Thank you for your hypothetical thought there. And I think that it might be a discussion if this board is willing to take and continue this to May. And I would look for a motion. Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Is there support? It has been supported. It has been moved by Commissioner Sweeney and supported by Commissioner O'Neill to move the